Hey, everyone. All right, we're live. Acceleratoorg.com. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Friday, December 18th. Almost Christmas, or whatever holiday you celebrate. Awesome. Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, whatever else is out there. There's a bunch these days, but I love them all. So let's get started in our financial discussion towards the end of the year. That's always the fun stuff, right? So, well, guys and gals, let's talk about things real fast. High level before we get into questions. Jeff Bruno, your outsourced CFO, first of all. So introduce myself again. So high level, it's year end. Reinvestment strategy. If you're a cash filer, if you're an accrual filer for taxes, you have different strategies. Think about your cash flow in the first quarter. Think about your tax liability that can come. Don't deposit checks so you have a warm and fuzzy feeling in your belly. December 29th into your account. Any big checks into your account. If that's going to cause extra tax liability without the costs coming through if you're a cash filer. I see a lot of small businesses make this mistake all the time. Hold those checks until January. Okay? Be careful. You will pay extra tax that you don't want to. So hold those checks, everybody, small business owners here. And, if you have the cash to, obviously, if you need the cash by the end of the year, then do what you got to do. But hold the checks, limit your liability, and reinvest for your business. If you have a lot of profit in this year, this was a good year for you. COVID opened up some doors for you. Plow something in the last 2 weeks of the year here into your business. Cut some prepays for next year. Get your tax liability down. Some stuff you're going to spend next year. Get it out the door. So that's the tax side of me. Even though we don't deal with that, we advise companies on ways to manage, their operating profits. So think about that. And otherwise, good to see everyone, whoever's on live and whoever sees the replay. So let's jump into the questions. Start today. This is from Law Jackson. Law Jackson asks, I could use some help staying on course while I build up more revenue. What are some affordable ways to stay accountable with my sales process and implementation? Business description. Thanks to 8 months of mentorship, I have a basic sales process, a short list of vendors, and a project manager in training. I thought sales was my biggest problem. Then I thought it was my limited capacity. Now I know it's my poor system of processes. I'm figuring out my process from sales through to production. It's not perfect, but it works. The real pain is removing myself from the different stages and still getting quality results. You may remember that I'm transitioning away from the freelancer mode. It's still pretty much just me. I have a loose plan with 100 little things to do each week. What are some ways to implement process, improve my ability to delegate and develop sales? Do you think an accountability group would help? So, Law, this is certainly touches on finance and operations, of course. Not very financially driven here in what you need to do, but a big problem a lot of businesses, including myself still, of course, my business is still small, I'm only 8 people, have this problem is the quality piece and getting the information out effectively to the other people you work with to keep that quality in place. And what you're talking about here too, which we see a lot in businesses, small businesses we work with, is that theory of constraints that you mentioned. So, the sales constraint, the production constraint, or capacity in that sense, or the process constraint. Sure, those are all different constraints, whether you're a service business, a manufacturing business, product business. They're all different constraints, and they always go up and down and cause problems. Sell more, produce it, or service it. Sell more, you know this better than I do. You already called it out. But that is a definite issue. So what a lot of businesses do is, and where they falter, is they sell. I got to hire. I have too much. Hire. Still busy here. It's helping the new hire with production or with process. Take eye off the ball of selling. Now this comes down. Now my cash is tight. Now I have another problem I have to worry about. I have to worry about my cash. And now this person's sort of like sitting around floundering. What do I do? What do I do? You're worried about cash now. Now you have to resell again. So this person just languishes over here. Doesn't get the right training, so on and so forth. So what I recommend is take what's out of your head and write it down. I did this. Now I spent some money. I spent $10,000 with an awesome ghostwriter. And over 4 months, about 80% me, 2 other people on my team for the other 20%, spent approximately, I probably spent about 40 to 50 hours over the summer, over 4 months of my direct time, just downloading my thoughts chapter by chapter, text by text to this ghostwriter who was savvy with some financial writing and structures, took our outline and took our process into a 110-page training manual. Now, is it perfect? No. Is it going to change? Yes. But does it have the guts of what we do and can then take those pieces and at least emphasize those with new hires and push them in the right direction? 100%. So that's what I would do for your process optimization. Take the time, you mainly, because it's your baby here, take the time to do that. Write it down. If you have to spend a little money to help somebody write it, do it. Then you have a process that you can lean on with a new person. Because the only way to grow your business and scale is to have other people, especially in the type of business you're in, is to have people who know your quality level and can replicate that. So also, another thing to not forget, this is our business, we're called Your Outsourced CFO, is when you have certain pieces that you're comfortable shifting to an outside expert, okay, you pay a little bit more, but it saves you time. So those theory of constraints are cause less of an issue. You'd be surprised. You take that away, instead of this, you go like this. And then cash is not a problem. You understand your financial metrics from pushing it to an outsourced CFO group, or even if you're smaller than that, just a really good bookkeeping group. And now you know that's secure. You could focus on sales and training and slowly build your business up. So hopefully that was helpful. I also think coaching, you mentioned accountability. I think coaching is a good thing to do. Join a coaching group, or maybe a part-time coach that could help you for $500, $1,000 a month, something like that. If you have the extra funds, they could hold you accountable and make sure that you stay on point. Good thoughts, Law. Love it all. Crank it. Next person. Next question. Excuse me. We have Bob. Bob Gier. I think that's how you say it. Bob Gier. Or Bob Giger. Sorry, Bob. Bob asked, how do you know when to call it quits on a business idea? Business description. Over the past decade, Bob's launched 5 or 6 businesses, set up e-commerce sites, obtained sales, and then stopped when I didn't believe I could turn a profit. Now with my current venture, I'm in the same spot. I'm not sure if I should push forward or switch gears to one of my other entrepreneurial ideas. Over the past 2 years, he developed a skincare massage product, and he's looking to brand and build a company around it. Awesome, Bob. This is great, man. Serial entrepreneur, for sure. So that's clearly what you're doing, and that's great, man. I love the thought process. We need that, and so I think you need to come up with and this is hard as an entrepreneur, but what is your definition of traction? So, what do you consider traction in this new product you're doing? So, you got to think of the different parameters on this product. How much money have you spent? If you set out in the beginning and you said, for me to get this to market, it should be $20,000, and you spent 50, well, maybe there's too many problems here, and either you were completely off on your budgeting, or this just seems too hard an obstacle to overcome. Let's can this and do something else, possibly. Or maybe as you're trudging along, you realize I'm good at X, Y, and Z, but in order to do P and G, I'm horrible at that. I need a partner. If I don't get a partner, this is never going to take off. This is just going to flatline. I mean, maybe you should consider partnerships. Those are things. Now, partnerships are hard early on sometimes. One of the biggest obstacles for a business, I mean, I don't remember the percentage, but big percentage of businesses fail because of partnership problems. But if you just don't have the expertise, you might want to do it. Or maybe you get a consultant to come in and test run some stuff with you who knows the industry you're in. I mean, skincare and massage product is a pretty well-known industry. Maybe there are some consultants that can come in and say, look, Bob, you're trying to jump into a very saturated industry. I think unless you do this that's disruptive and so on, you're not going to get eyeballs on your product. Or, yep, there's enough room in here because of what you're doing, so I think you can get, 10% of the market to take a look at your product. That might be enough. So what are the metrics there behind, what it is you're doing in that marketplace? Very important. And the other thing about this with your entrepreneur side is you got to think, is this disruptive? So competitive analysis is a good way to do it. Am I producing something that is different enough that I should keep going with it, throwing more time and dollars into it because it is truly disruptive? And if that's the case, you might want to keep going because disruptive things take time to become real. And, there's the entrepreneurial, development cycle or whatever, where, you go from an innovator to blah, 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 blah. And as your product gets more and more knowledge, then it tips over at a certain point and you become known in the marketplace. So you just got to decide whether this is disruptive or you're just trying to take a slice of the market there of what that means. So hope that's helpful. Next question is from Mary Rentacalio. Mary Rentacalio. Mary asks, how do I determine how to pay someone to do work for me? Business description. I have a therapy machine for horses and have now found a person to hire to use it. What would be the best salary alternative? Hourly paid or per treatment? One treatment is 30 minutes and minimum charge is 50. The person knows a lot of people and is located in a training center for horses, and there's demand right away. I'm a veterinarian currently working with small animals as a contractor. Okay, well, Mary, a lot of questions here. So, what are you doing? And I mean that in the nicest way. What is your business model? What gross profit do you need on this machine? How much have you spent on this machine? What is the ROI for each machine you expect? How many a day are you going to think this can do? How many machines do you ultimately need in your area to service? What is the thought process of within call it an hour drive of something that the market you have for that product? Obviously, it's a therapy machine, so I'm assuming, you have to be on site. So within an hour, that's probably your market. So how much of that is there? Do you want to scale this? Then you have to look at other areas. So there's a lot to know here. So it's hard for me to say what to price it. If you're doing this just to make money, to reinvest in your pocket or in a new machine, just to build up some of the assets of the company, then do it with that in mind. I need to make $100,000 for $50,000 for me and $50,000 to buy 10 more machines. I don't know what they cost. So if that's the case, then I need X gross profit minus my fixed costs. Maybe you have rent, maybe you have some other logistics you have to pay for. That's me and the new machines. So the reason I'm going all askew here is until you know what your business process is, it's hard to see that. But then you got to go and say, well, this person has a skill. They know how to use this machine. They've been trained. They know horses. There's a niche market there. They're probably hard to find, those people. So probably they're more expensive. So the fact that you're going to get to pay that person $10 an hour or $20 an hour is probably not the case. You'll probably have to pay that person 30, 40, 50 an hour, 60 an hour. I don't know. You have to see what your industry pays those type of people. And then see how many can you do in a day. If you're comfortable that you're going to do 8 sessions a day, it's $50 a session. That's $400 a day. That means you can pay this person $25 a day. Basically, maybe $30 a day. And that margin is then yours. I'm just purely estimating. But that's what you have to come up with and figure out what that is. Now, I love variable. I don't love fixed salary costs. It could snow. It snowed here in Pennsylvania. I don't know where you're located, but it snowed here in Pennsylvania. A ton of horse people up here in Pennsylvania. It snowed between 6 and 20 inches here. I'm sure people for a couple of days are not traveling around doing horse therapy during the big snow. So there's a lot of things there you got to consider when you're looking at this type of stuff. And you know, how many can you get done? What's your marketplace there? I mean, I'm a huge fan of variable costs for those reasons, especially as you're starting your business. But then you have the retention factor with that person. And you mentioned a little bit here about business development. So you were saying how they know a lot of people and so on. So you might want to pay it forward for business development with that person to help you build traction in your business and pay them more, maybe on a salary or maybe just more per hour than you would normally to get cemented in there. So hopefully that was helpful. Next question. We have Zach Williams. Zach says, how can we differentiate ourselves and build a moat or competitive advantage in a saturating market? Business description. We sell houseplants online and provide a wealth of plant care tips and information. We were a fairly early mover in the trend, but the market is saturating and competition is increasing, and therefore the cost of a new customer is increasing. We have been focusing on producing content, increasing our returning customer rate, and lowering our prices. But we are looking for some other ways to build a moat and differentiate ourselves in the market. So Zach, I have a big problem with one thing you said in that line. You said you're lowering your prices. So I don't know your market. I don't. But I know other markets where it starts to get saturated and people start lowering prices to keep market share, or in some cases try to gain market share in that industry. Okay? Lowering prices can be a very fast race to the bottom. So be careful with lowering prices. Because as you noted, your CAC or your cost to acquire the new customer is going up, if your cost to acquire the new customer is going up, and at the same time you're lowering your prices, we have a problem here. You are tightening your margin. You are lowering your profit by doing that overall, most likely. And unless you're some big conglomerate, unless you're some multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar company that's doing that to push other competitors out, I don't know if that's a successful tactic. So I'd be very careful doing that. So I'm a big fan, and I just don't know your market, but what it sounds like, you're trying to do tips and you're focusing on returning customers and so on. I like the premium pricing model for you because then you do extreme service. You say, we'll sell our houseplants online, but if you buy at this premium price and you buy now, we include once a quarter, we come to your house, give you tips, check on your plants for free. It's part of it. All free. No problem. At your convenience. We'll do that. Now, how many companies are doing that? Probably not a lot. We'll wear a mask. It is still COVID. Yeah, and you Texas and Florida people, wear a mask. So you go to their house. But be very careful, Zach, with lowering prices. So now, if you have something different and your price at a low point can still give you high value, the customers presume is high value, and you're at a decent low price, you're quickly taking off market share. Your exponential growth, you're taking over market share, and exponential growth, then that's a strategy. But be careful. Let me give you some examples. Okay? Real life examples. So, I'm sure you're familiar with cutting the cord, right? Cutting the cord, I don't use any cable anymore. I used to be a big Comcast user years ago. Cut the cord maybe 2 years ago. Okay? So, streaming came on the scene a few years ago. Netflix, Hulu now. Now Disney just rolled out its streaming service. What did all of those big companies do early on? Low price to get in and take market share. What are all of them doing now? Raising price. All of them. Why? Because the market's getting saturated. Amazon's coming in. Hulu's coming in. Disney's coming in. HBO Max. They're all coming in and taking market share. So Netflix raised its price. Hulu, I've gotten 2 price ranges. I have Hulu now. I can't stand. I've gotten 2 price ranges, 50 to 60, now 60 to 70. Today, I could show you my phone. My wife texted me. She said, they're raising again prices. I said, well, this is the market we live in. So raising prices is the tactic when the market gets saturated if you have a foothold in the market. So that's my advice. But also another way to do it, if you need to stay a little bit lower in cost or price, is to see if you can manage your costs better. Maybe it's going all digital, or maybe digital with your marketing, or maybe there's other ways with your suppliers to get your costs lower. That's always an avenue too. So best of luck. I love it. Great concept. So hopefully this was helpful. All right. Next one. Alicia Francis. Alicia says, what is your opinion on holding companies? Do you currently use them with your business? And what are the pros and cons? Her business, they operate a service-based company. In the winter, we do snow removal, so there is some risk of being sued if someone were to slip and fall. We have business insurance, of course, but we've been told a holding company can also help to protect our business. We're considering starting a holding company to hold all of our equipment, so any type of litigation with our operating company wouldn't affect our assets. So, Alicia, so this is very tax and legal. And I think mostly what you're asking here is the legal side. So, well, a CFO like us, a CFO or a strategic advisor that we do a lot of with our clients would think along these lines strategically for the company. We are very cautious to not give answers to this question. And I hate to say this, but this is heavy legal. So do I have a holding company for my company? No. I'm 8 people. I don't have any assets. I have very, very little liability. I'm not doing snow removal. I'm doing financial services. Okay. There are other businesses that I work with all over the place, and I'd say about 25% of our businesses have different structures. Either have a couple LLCs, have a holding company with a couple subs or LLCs under it. So it is common strategy to do. It could be good for IP protection, intellectual property protection of something you develop. Yes, you're right. It could be good for separate asset protection. But then you have questions. So, and I would ask an attorney on your specific situation whether, the potential lawsuits can pierce through the entity structure. Because typically, you would then have to have 2 separate insurance policies, one on the holding company, one on your other LLC, or whatever that was holding the assets. So, and then there's cross, because those assets are being used in the holding company. It's just a little tricky. So I would definitely ask them how that would structure. Then the things you have to worry about are the costs. Now you have 2 returns. Not too costly, but now you have 2 P&Ls you have to manage, 2 balance sheets you have to manage. You have, maybe in your state or city, you have considerations on tax, depending on where your entities are. Maybe you have banking scenarios where a bank may come in and you want to get lending, but a bank's going to look at, well, what assets can I lend on? And if you're just doing it with the LLC and you don't have the holding company revenues or vice versa, you just got to think about this, because a bank's going to think, why are we doing this? Where's our collateral? I want to tie up all our collateral. They'll probably put structures on the whole thing, but these are all complexities that add to your cost. Someone to evaluate that, someone to explain it to the bank. You got to move expenses between the 2, revenues between the 2 for tax efficiency, so on and so forth. Companies do it, but just be cognizant of that. Is it worth it at your size to do that? As you get bigger, sure, absolutely, do it and look at it. So, and get an attorney. I know a bunch of great attorneys if you need one. And so, all right, let's talk about, is this the last question? This is the last question. It's an easy day, Sean. Come on, Sean, you got to give me more. So, this is from Paulina Beck. Paulina Beck. And it looks like, I checked out your website, Paulina, I was intrigued. BeckinsonFinancial.com. So Paulina says, how do you explain the difference in pricing between CFO level services and bookkeeping services to clients? Business description. I run a full service accounting firm, and I think I am potentially undercharging my clients for CFO services. My clients fall between 100K and 500K in revenue, and in my monthly CFO retainer, I cover bookkeeping, tax prep, tax planning, cash flow analysis, and financial consulting with 4 more meetings during the month for $750. Okay, so Pauline, let me structure this first. So obviously we do some of this. I would say only maybe 15-20% of what you do. Because Paulina, what we do is really FP&A, financial planning analysis on a lean methodology, and CFO and other strategic processes and forecasting support for those clients. So we're not in all the other areas that you're doing, which can be good. So the tricky thing is, if you're doing a retainer for all of these services, they can get very heavy depending on transactions with bookkeeping. How complicated is the tax prep? Tax planning, that could be part of your CFO stuff, but it's a little bit tricky. Cash flow analysis can get onerous. And then there's general consulting, which I'm assuming is a little bit more of your coaching, and I saw on your website coaching or strategy piece. So if I were you, I would separate out those. I would separate out your cash flow analysis and financial consulting with the rest and have separate pricing for that. Because $750 for all of that for 4 meetings, in my opinion, even though these are small companies, is not enough. It's just not enough. Especially 4 meetings. It's too much time. So there's too much back office stuff you're going to have to do. And for what you're talking about, for the bookkeeping and some of the tax, some of the simpler tax, you probably need, like a $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 person if you're going to scale. But for some of the CFO stuff or the more strategic consulting, you need, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 people on your team or greater to help you with that piece. So as you grow, think about that consideration. That's why I like the 2 separate pricing methodologies. So, and I think $750 a month is just not enough. So I think for small, easy, service-based business bookkeeping, tax prep, tax planning, and so on, and a little sprinkling of, an hour a month of coaching, you could probably get away with $750 to $1,000 a month. But if you do any real cash flow analysis or any financial consulting past that point with forecasting on any kind of metric development, I would go higher. So those are my thoughts, but good luck on your business. Happy to hop on a call with you, see if I can help you. I mean, this is we obviously cross on thought process here. So the need is out there, there's no doubt, especially for those size businesses. They have little idea on their financials until they run into issues. So having you on board earlier would certainly help. So I love it. So do it. And that was the last question of the day. So again, we're at about 35 minutes, 40 minutes, pretty quick today. Everybody, it's almost the end of the year. Please get your stuff in order. Congrats on making it through COVID or whatever business idea you're trying to do. Get your budgets in order. Get ready for 2021. Looks like the feds are getting close to some more relief. And I'm ready for a good year, 2021. I think we all need it. So best of luck to everyone. I'm here. Hopefully this was helpful. And we'll talk soon. Happy New Year.